Despite the One Piece live action having received quite a bit of criticism and doubt whether it would be enjoyable or not, well, on my end, I can confidently say that One Piece is once again leading the way with its groundbreaking and immense influence and success it has on a global scale. But did the live action do the manga and anime justice? What changes did it have compared to the canon material, and how important were these changes? Will these changes cause the live action to drift away from the original story in the coming seasons? Or will these changes be negligible? Well, you can rest easy, because we're gonna answer all of those burning questions for you. These are the 50 most important and noteworthy changes and differences that One Piece live action had compared to the canon work of Eichiro Oda. But before that, if you enjoyed the One Piece live action, then you better click that subscribe button, as in the coming days and weeks, we will release more videos revolving around it. Beginning with an important change that has to do with the execution of Goldie Roger. In the live action, Garp is there present next to Roger. In the anime and manga, however, Garp is not there. This basically sets the tone for Garp's involvement throughout the live action. As we will see in this video, Garp plays a way more significant role in Netflix's One Piece adaptation. Not only that, when it comes to their relationship, in the anime, we saw that Garp and Roger shared a rivalry that was placed more towards the mutual respect despite being rivals. In the live action, however, we see that Garp's stare and the way he speaks to Roger is for sure a much more hostile and aggressive behavior, leaning more towards the hate side. A small but important change, right? But not as important as this one. That's because when Luffy initiated his journey and set sail in the sea, there was a major scene cut out in the live action. You see, in the live action, the earliest we get of Luffy in terms of chronological order, leaving out the flashback moments of course, is when he is seen in the boat talking to that bird. In the anime and manga, however, we had a great scene before that which was left out. Back when Luffy was a kid, he was saved by Shanks from a Sea King, which resulted in Shanks losing his arm. When Luffy decided to set sail in the anime, the first thing he encountered was the exact same Sea King that took Shanks' arm. Luffy went on to punch that Sea King like it meant nothing, and went on to start his epic journey. This sequence was not included in the live action. In its place, we basically got a scene explaining how Luffy ended up in the barrel instead, which was not fully shown in the anime, but rather simply mentioned. Now, this is just the beginning, and from here onwards, things will only get crazier as each change I gathered is even more exciting than the last. When it comes to Alvida, a change that I noticed which caught me off guard was this. In the live action, Alvida was searching for Zoro as a countermeasure for him being a bounty hunter. That was the moment that I realized we're about to shift quite a bit from the anime, which may sound bad based on previous live action adaptations we got, but thankfully, this was not the case for One Piece. When it comes to the behavior and tone of the live action, well, I'm gonna say it was much more brutal than the anime. That's because we saw Alvida's attacks being much more serious than what they looked like in the anime. I mean, in reality, the live action did it better here. Being hit by this club sure backs a lot of damage, but a change in which I was not so sure how it would take was this one that had to do with Zoro. I mean, yeah, Zoro is cold and badass in the anime, but I kind of felt like his energy was a little different in the live action. In the live action, he seems a bit more edgy and moody all the time, compared to the anime version, where Zoro also has a lot of goofy and chill moments. But since we mentioned Zoro's somewhat different behavior, well, him flipping off Mr. 7 that came to recruit him surely deserves a mention, as this was not present in the anime. But even more than that, their fight was not shown in the anime, but rather just mentioned. In the live action, Zoro went on to split Mr. 7 in half, which was kinda brutal on one hand, but also surely fit Zoro's swordsman nature. On to Luffy's backstory. Did you notice any changes? Because we found quite a few, to be honest. First of all, Luffy seems much tougher and does not cry as much as the anime version. And listen, even though that might not be a change you notice immediately, a change that was quite obvious is how Luffy ate his devil fruit. In the anime, the chest which contained the devil fruit was exposed to Luffy only after the bandits fought Shanks and wrecked the bar. In the live action, however, Luffy is seen purposefully looking in Shanks' stuff. That's when he finds the devil fruit and eats it. Plus, he seemed kind of aware of what he was doing compared to the anime version, where he simply ate it because he was hungry. But was this the only change in Luffy's backstory? Not quite. That's because, as we all know, the bandits that attacked Shanks in the anime did not just stick to spilling the drinks and breaking some stuff like they did in the live action. Instead, they attacked and hit Shanks, which was actually one of the best moments showcasing Shanks' resilience and true character. Even more than that, the reason the live action went that way is because they changed Shanks' character and made him more serious and maybe even aggressive. I do have the feeling that based on Shanks' writing in the live action, if the bandits hit him, then this version of Shanks would probably have fought back. back to the normal story, hear this. The way Zoro, Nami, and Luffy meet is much different. That's because in the anime, Luffy purposefully went to meet, free, and recruit Zoro that was captured. Luffy was already aware of Zoro due to his reputation as a pirate hunter. In the live action, however, Luffy first meets Zoro in the bar, in which Zoro beats up Helmeppo for being cruel towards a kid. This confrontation between Zoro and Helmeppo was never shown in the anime. In the live action, as it so happens, Nami is there at the bar as well. Nami and Luffy head to Morgan's marine base to simply steal a map and not free Zoro. Another change that had to do with that was that Zoro was held captive for 9 days straight in the anime. In the live action, however, this was not explicitly shown. Also, the girl that gave Zoro onigiri came much earlier in the bar sequence, instead of giving Zoro food while he was being caught in the marine base. A moment that was skipped during Zoro's recruitment was Zoro's answer, where Zoro said to Luffy that if he ever stood between him and his dream, he would not hesitate to kill him. But wait, because yet another change that had to do with Zoro was that apparently in this version of One Piece, Zoro is a certified hairstylist. I mean, he did give Helmeppo a haircut, which was obviously something new compared to the anime. Even more than that, in the anime, Helmeppo used to have the geeky hair before becoming a marine, and then grew his hair after becoming one. In the live action, however, this is the opposite. We've covered 15 changes so far. So, was this all the changes we found? Nope. Hold tight, because we have 35 more changes to present to you. Another change you might not have noticed is the way Kobe joins the Marines. That's because in the anime, Luffy makes Kobe hit him, and then Luffy hits him back, all in order to give the impression to the Marines that Kobe was not with them, and thus make his job easier in joining the Marines. In the live action, however, they simply say goodbye to each other, and Kobe heads on to join the Marines on his own. However, the most important change I found was this one change that had to do with Luffy. You see, in the live action, it was repeatedly stated and emphasized that Luffy is, quote, a different kind of pirate. That was made in order to show that Luffy is a good pirate and actually different compared to the rest. The issue with that, however, is that Luffy kept saying this by himself, which was something the anime version of him would never do. As we know, Luffy does not consider himself a good guy, as at the end of the day, he is a pirate. He repeatedly stated that he does not want to be a hero because that would mean giving away his meat. The only motivation Luffy has for doing the right things in the anime is not because he knows that what he does is the right thing, but rather because that's what he feels like doing. It just so happens that what he feels like is, most of the times, the right thing to do as well. A live-action character that is surely evil, on the other hand, is Buggy. You see, Buggy's motives are much different in the live action. In the anime, Nami was basically stealing from Buggy's crew, and when Nami randomly stumbled upon the Straw Hats, she called Luffy captain so that the Buggy pirates could start chasing them instead of her. That's what started the whole rivalry of the Straw Hats against Buggy. In the live action, however, Buggy attacks the Straw Hats after finding out they have a map for the Grand Line. Nami at this stage has already set sail with the Straw Hats, even if she wasn't an official member yet, which was again a significant change compared to the anime. Another change that we observed when it comes to Buggy is that this dude is a complete menace and a complete psychopath in the live action. He is seen hating Shanks and is in no way caring about him like he did in the anime. But speaking of Shanks, did you notice that the way he lost his arm in the live action was different? That's because in the live action, Shanks picks up Luffy and places him in the boat, after which the Sea King attacks. In the live action, Shanks has a lot of time to react and counter the Sea King's attack, but he didn't, which caused Shanks to lose an arm. This made it seem as Shanks was basically around the same level in terms of strength with the Sea King. In the anime, however, the reason Shanks lost an arm was because he dove into the sea to save Luffy. At that moment, the Sea King attacked, and the only reason Shanks lost an arm was because he was focused on saving Luffy rather than protecting himself. But back to Buggy. When Zoro and Luffy were imprisoned, the Buggy pirates went on to torture both Zoro and Luffy, with quite a few brutal methods if you ask me. But none of these torture methods were part of the anime. Buggy's Bara Bara no Mi, or else known as the Chop Chop fruit, works quite differently in the live action too. That's because, as we can see here, even physical attacks like punches do not work on Buggy. In the anime, however, the only things that do not work on him is slashes, which is quite a big change if you ask me. But listen to this, an even bigger change is the following. The way Zoro and Nami decided to join and fight alongside Luffy seemed a bit sudden to me. Just a few hours prior, they kept telling Luffy that they're not a crew, and that they're basically together only because they were going on to the same place and needed a ship to do so. But then, when they're freed from their cages, instead of fleeing, they go to help Luffy. Zoro even went on to compliment Luffy quite a bit, showing that he believes in him. Next, hear this. Luffy turned down food in the live action. That was something I found very odd, as in the anime, we saw, among others, Luffy eating food off of Shirahoshi's plate, while she was also crying, by the way. He sucked an entire table of food, along with Chopper, and he also tried to eat Chopper quite a few times. So yeah, Luffy passing on food seems quite crazy to me. Once again, let's go back to the flashback of Luffy as a kid, when Luffy gave his speech about wanting to be a pirate captain and form a crew even stronger than the red-haired pirates. Shanks was thinking what to do. In the anime, however, Shanks was immediately happy with Luffy's words, and he knew exactly what he had to do with the Straw Hat. Next, let's talk about the fact that Buggy became Arlong's captive. That was obviously a change compared to the anime, and the reason for that was because Arlong's actions in the live action are quite different. But more of that in the rest of the video. But did you observe the issue when Buggy was taken captive of Arlong? You see, the issue arises from the fact that Buggy does not escape his chains. Based on his devil fruit, he should have been able to do that, right? Well, the only logical explanation to that is that Buggy was chained with Sea Prism Stone. That, as we all know, halts devil fruit powers. This, however, was never mentioned in the live action. On to Syrup Island, where the whole interaction of Usopp and Kaya is much different. In the anime, Usopp basically sat outside her window and told her stories. In the live action, however, he goes on to be a guest inside her house. Generally speaking, the whole Syrup Island arc is different, as characters like Django are missing. Usopp is jacked in the live action, Luffy is poisoned, Zoro is thrown inside a well, and all in all, the whole plot is quite unique compared to the anime. But to be honest, I'm not complaining. Episode 3 was quite good. An issue that I found on episode 3, however, was the fact that Nami intended to steal stuff from Kaya, showing that the live action Nami is just a simple thief. In the anime, however, Nami sticks to only stealing from pirates, which is quite a big change in Nami's character. Moving on to Zoro's backstory, where apparently the students in the live action wear protective masks. This was an obvious change compared to the anime and the manga. Not to mention that Zoro and Kuina never fought to the death in the anime. In the live action, Zoro did seem quite a bit bloodthirsty there. Next, let's talk about the fact that the live action made Usopp Kaya a reality, as not only Usopp was seen interested in her, they also shared a kiss before Usopp left. This was again added material, as a kiss between them never appeared in the anime. When it comes to Luffy's backstory, Garp was much more abusive and strict towards him. Even though in the anime Garp was hitting him even as a child, a thing that was not shown in the live action, the punches thrown were out of love. Doesn't really make it that much better. But this affection towards Luffy was not really shown in the live action. But the changes that have to do with Garp do not end there. That's because Garp appears in Syrup Island and attacks the Straw Hat ship. I mean, in the anime, this comes much later at a point that both Sanji, Chopper, and Frankie are on board. Plus, we did not see the epic moment of Zoro cutting a cannonball in half like we did in the anime. On to the introduction of Sanji. Well, all I'm gonna say here is that his character trait of being a simp was kinda narrowed down, as not only does he not simp as much, but he's also much more of a smooth talker. But when it comes to Baratier arc, another significant change occurred when Luffy did not get into a fight with Don Krieg, as Mihawk destroyed him on his own in the live action. Also, Garp and Mihawk were in communication, which again was a live action original. Also during Baratier arc, there was a lot of great comedy being skipped. For example, while Luffy was a waiter, he tried to sneak in a bugger in Zoro's drink. Zoro went on to force Luffy to drink it instead. Moments like that were not included in the live action. Another scene that was missing from Baratier was Jin turning against Zeph and breaking his leg, while also threatening to kill everyone there. Instead, Jin was just washed on Baratier, and Sanji fed him. An addition to the Baratier arc, however, came when Nami and Zoro decided to play a drinking game. Not only that, but apparently Nami stated that she never had any friends, which made me think where Nojiko stood in all this. What that meant was that either Nami was lying, or she simply considered Nojiko family rather than a friend. Next, let's talk about Zoro's injury treatment, where, as we saw, Zeph used fish skin to treat Zoro's wounds. This was never shown in the anime. And even more than that, this treatment in real life was discovered relatively recently and was not known when Eichiro Oda was writing this manga chapter almost 2 decades ago. By the end of the Baratier arc, we saw yet another change that had to do with Arlong. You see, Arlong in reality never visited Baratier in the anime. Not only that, but in the anime, the drowning scene of Luffy took place in Arlong Park instead. But Arlong was not the only addition to Baratier. That's because Garp visited Zeph in the live action as well, something that never happened in the anime. When it comes to the actual live action Arlong Park, well, in the anime, Nojiko never took the Straw Hats as guests, and Sanji never cooked for her in the anime. Another significant change that had to do with Arlong is that in the anime, he never burned down the village like it happened in the live action. And yet, we're not done with Arlong Park. That's because the epic moment when Arlong got his hands on Zoro and witnessed his wounds was not included. Arlong went on to state that with those injuries, Zoro should not have been alive. This epic moment was unfortunately never included in the live action. Finally, in Arlong Park, the ending had yet another unexpected turn. That's because Garp appears and confronts the Straw Hats, something that never happened in the anime. Overall, besides these changes, we believe we should mention some more points that the live action did not include or drastically changed. For example, Usopp's 3 kid followers never appeared. This is also the case for Chow Chow, Django the Hypnotist, Shanks and Buggy's backstory, Gaimon, Usopp's goggles, Johnny and Yosoku, and even the sea cow in Arlong Park. When it comes to the Straw Hats characters' behaviors and traits now, there are also some very distinct examples of difference between the live action and the anime. As we mentioned, Zoro is much more edgy and serious in the live action, while in the anime, he has many goofy and carefree moments. Sanji's simp levels were very much narrowed down in the live action. Nami is a much more skilled fighter in hand-to-hand combat, and even Luffy is much more reasonable, clever, and cool-headed compared to the carefree, stupid version of Luffy in the anime. But not only the Straw Hats featured somewhat different personality traits, Garp did so as well. He is clever, composed, and tactical, while also being much more serious and focused in his marine tasks. I mean, in the anime, he's basically laughing all the time, not to mention the fact that he picks his nose more times than not. Finally, although the change might not seem like a big one for non-One Piece watchers, in reality, every true One Piece fan will agree that this change is indeed noteworthy. In the live action, the characteristic phrase of Luffy, "I am gonna be king of the pirates," is much more casual, while in the anime, Luffy is screaming his lungs out so that everyone can hear him. Overall, despite all those changes, the One Piece live action has been a great success, and even though many plot points were altered, the story still made sense. There was character development, and the story was highly enjoyable to watch. Check out this video where we present what would have happened if Inosuke was turned into a demon by Doma. Go on, check it out!